I'm super excited to be here. I actually did a prep call with Nikki and Sebastian, and all of the innovations they were talking about for Mastercard, I was super excited about. So I think this is going to be really interesting for everyone. But before we dive in, why don't you guys give a little bit of background on your role and how important emerging technology is to that role? We could do ladies first. So Nikki.
Thank you. Well, first of all, welcome. Welcome to our house. It's lovely to be able to host this event, particularly around this topic of AI and emerging tech, which we spend most of our time with our minds in that space. So I'm Nikki Grant. I lead brand strategy and advertising at Mastercard. For those of you who were fortunate enough to hear Cheryl Gearan speak earlier, I'm in Cheryl's team. And, you know, as we think about brand and how brand manifests, how it expresses itself, technology plays a critical role in that. And we've probably evolved and accelerated and adapted our brand to show up in the space of new technology more in the last 5-8 years than we have for 50 years. So it has a huge impact on how we think about the brand.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. My name's Sebastian Oddo. I'm the Vice President of Innovation on Cheryl's group. I joined the company about 2 years ago. Prior to that, I worked in sports for 11 years, helping athletes like Simone Biles and Steph Curry think about what was next and as it relates to emerging tech in their careers. And then also major brands like Mastercard. And then I took 2 years to go work for Gary Vee and blockchain and Web3. And really, that was in 2021 when it was wild. But now I'm here and I'm happy. And emerging tech is my life. I've been 19 years in emerging tech. I live and breathe it at night. My wife hates me because I have machines running in the basement. And, you know, well, she doesn't care about the Bitcoin machines, but all the other machines make noises. But it's my life. It's my passion. So happy to be here.
Should we do a deep dive into those machines? So obviously this is a very broad topic, AI and everything in between. I think it might be helpful even just to level set. How do you guys even begin to approach emerging technology? How do you evaluate it or prioritize it at Mastercard?
Well, I'm going to let Seb answer that.
Okay. How do we prioritize it? First, we think about, we have to meet consumers where they're at, right? So when we think about technology, I think about all the different experiential events we do and B2B events and think about what technology at that event could make their lives a little bit easier. I did a TEDx, which was a funny experience for me, but it was around how innovation could drive more piggyback rides. And what I meant by that was technology should give me time to give my kids more piggyback rides. And the tech that we have on site at our events should give consumers the opportunity to experience the event in another way. So for example, we released this year our Pass the Priceless platform, which is our Web3 blockchain-based program that allows consumers to be able to receive digital assets when they're at an event. So picture you're at an event, a Lady Gaga concert, for example. You get a ticket stub, and when you go home, you put that on your wall because you want to remember it with your family. What we're doing is we're issuing digital assets at events so people remember those events, those mementos. But what's cool about it is we could make the consumer's experience better by that digital asset could bring maybe an additional invite to another event. Maybe it could bring to life some experience on site in a new way. So we partnered with Major League Baseball this year. We did a next-gen loyalty program around Pass the Priceless where if you bought a Priceless.com package, you got a digital asset, and when you came on site, we scanned your digital asset, and then we knew at that moment we could issue a Priceless surprise to that consumer. So that's sort of an example of how technology could make the consumer's life better.
I think as well when we're evaluating technology, we're also thinking about how and where we might fail. And I noticed that topic has come up a few times today. I think failure is a really interesting word or term that has definitely shifted during the time of my career into something that was unacceptable into now absolutely necessary to get to a good outcome. And in this space of innovation and new technology, there is no path that's already been laid. There are no real guidelines or rules. And so those failures are necessary to create that path. And for that, you really need a culture of innovation. And that's something that we have developed really well over the last few years, and in particular under Cheryl's leadership, is nurturing this culture of innovation, encouraging curiosity. Yes, of course, we need to take thoughtful risks. So then your data, your insights are really important for informing goals and outcomes. But this is a very important factor for navigating failure in the emerging tech space.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a consistent theme. Test and learn, be comfortable with failure, have the uncomfortable conversations, and everything, prioritize the consumer at the center. So I think we need to hit our prerequisite of like AI mentions. So Nikki, obviously AI is a massive topic and continues to be. How is Mastercard using AI?
Yeah, well, we use AI a lot in general. We're a huge network organization that's based on technology. We have a huge amount of data. So AI is part of the way we operate. And as an organization, we think about how we make the ecosystem safer through the use of AI, how we help our customers be smarter through the use of AI, and how we help drive to more personalized experiences. But for us in our marketing and communications organization, we're looking at it from a productivity perspective, and also how we bring greater and better experiences to consumers, to small businesses. We've heard some today about the Mastercard Small Business AI that was launched yesterday. And Cheryl touched on earlier the Sonic station that we rolled out earlier this year. If I look at the problem that we were having as an internal organization, or should I say opportunity, we have a sound system for our brand. It is very extensive. It's not a jingle. It is an entire body of work. Now, if your job is to ensure that there is consistency, by the way, that's my job, consistency of how this shows up and is used around the world, you want to make it real easy for people to do that. What we don't want to do is be the brand police. We don't want to be issuing guidelines. We want to be building and developing tools that liberate the creators and marketeers in our organization to do great things with our brand in a way that also means we're consistent.
And I know some prior panels talked about some of the challenges that they started facing with AI. Is there anything specific that either of you wanted to touch on with challenges, and then how you've potentially learned from those?
Yeah, in innovation, there are a ton of new companies that come out in the market, and we want to work with them. But from a regulatory or a legal perspective, they might be too early for us to work with them. But then on the flip side of that, we want the cool stuff that they're working on. Like, we want to work with them. So I think one of the challenges is, how do we work with those companies in a way that could benefit both parties, us and them as a small business, but also, deregulate any issues that might come up. Right, so we talked about working with, the small business team, Create Labs, who helped us with the small business AI, and that was a great experience for us to hear how they, go about their business. And also, like, if I want to work with a really cool company that does retinal scanning, right, I might go to Cheryl and be like, Cheryl, can we work with them, please? But so that's a challenge for us as an organization, that we need to think about how we can work with those companies.
I think as well, when you're trailblazing and innovating, particularly in this space of AI, the rest of your organization, to Sebastian's point, is not geared up to go there. we have to unpick processes and ways of working that have been established for years for very good reason. So AI as a technology is one thing, but changing the way your organization operates to accommodate something new is as big of a challenge.
Yeah, and can I say one thing on that? So how we've done that is we've brought people to the table at the front. So the regulatory team, the legal team, the marketing team, the B2B team, we bring them to the table up front, tell them what we're going to work on, if it's a blockchain project or some emerging technology product, and get them to understand where we're at and how we want to use it. And then they're more bought in to actually helping solve the problem instead of coming to them, 3 months in and we want to launch this in a month. It's not going to work.
Makes sense. And you brought up a good point, like you want to do all these cool things. Like emerging technology is like so many cool things out there. Is that another struggle of balancing all the cool things you want to do with even investment and budgets and internal regulation and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I want to do everything. I want to work on so many great things. But we have to be. This goes back to ensuring that we're meeting Mastercard's standards as a company. Does it make sense for us as an organization? Does it feel right to us? Is it authentic? Is that creative technology really going to solve a problem for people on site? I often think about my mom, who I sent her 1-800-Flowers. Actually, she got it yesterday. That was part one of her gift. I got her a custom Yankee jersey too, but we have to be authentic with the tech. We shouldn't just be doing something because we want to do it because it's the sizzle right now. So I think that's important.
So you've talked a lot about the consumer. You've talked a lot about your mom. How important? Obviously, the consumer experience is really important. And you've kind of touched on this in the first question, but what are some ways that Mastercard's extending using emerging technology into real life experiences for the consumer?
Yeah, so some of the emerging technology that we're using, I'll give you an example. I gave you the one about blockchain and MLB. Another example, we did an activation at the Open Championship this year around a water bottle, right? We hand out water bottles at the event for sustainability purposes, but how can we take a water bottle and actually make it something more valuable to a consumer and more exciting? We used NFC check technology where when you tap the water bottle, it then brought up a piece of artwork from an artist that we work with that built this beautiful piece of art around the golden hour. It's that beautiful hour in the beach when you're laying there and you don't want to get off. And there was a story behind it. We heard a couple of people here talk about story making, and we were able to tell that story through technology in an easy way for me to explain to my mom. You tap the water bottle, you get the art, but then the art told a story larger to inspire them. And that was really a good way for us to use tech to inspire people.
Perfect. And you talked a little bit about this too, but and in prior panels, how some people might be skeptical of technology, the everyday consumer, the AI could be creepy. And I know when we talked in our prep call, you talked about cause marketing and how you're able to help people solve real world issues they have. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you're using emerging technology to do that?
Yeah, well, I think emerging technology is one part, but just innovation thinking in general is an important part of being purposeful in the work that you do. So we're typically starting with, let's say, our brand values and linking those values also to what is an authentic role that we play in society. I think we can all gather what our most authentic role is in the space of payments. And so brand values together with payments, that becomes your North Star for doing any purpose-led work. And then we have a very strong corporate position to create a digital economy that works for everyone. And so when you look at the world through that lens and you start to identify where there is opportunity, is that kind of thinking or North Star that enables us to really innovate with things like True Name and Touch Card. And Touch Card, for those of you who are not aware, it's a very simple, less technology actually, notch system in a card that enables people with visual impairments to feel the card that's in their wallet and find the right card to pay with. Because what's happened over a number of years is the embossing has disappeared from the card. So now this notch system, different notches for different types of cards, is a very, very simple innovation, but it unlocks and empowers people in a completely different way. No longer does the person have to hand their wallet over and say, can you get that card out for me? These are powerful but very small steps that you can take to innovate.
One other thing I would add there, a lot of people talk about how AI or blockchain or any emerging tech could be bad for the sustainability purposes, or is going to fry my kids' brains because they're on the gaming or on some tech all the time. I actually reverse engineer AI. So I use AI to help me find issues that we could solve for. So for example, in the ticketing process in music, is there a way for us to reverse engineer that buying process for someone who might be blind? And could you ask AI, is there a way for us to solve the process to make it easier for them? And I use AI to give me creativity points and then take it and run with it from there and then present ideas to Cheryl and Nikki and others. But that's how I've been using AI, is not just give me back response, but like help me try to solve a real problem that's going to benefit people who might not have that opportunity.
And more time for piggybacks.
And more time for piggybacks, right.
So you both talked about brand authenticity a lot. Keeping that in mind, how do you maintain brand authenticity when you're working to innovate?
Yeah, it's important to have that. I mentioned not having it as a North Star already. It's really critical, actually. If I use the small business AI as an example, we had a lot of conversation very early on in that project about how do we show up in AI with this interface. The brand is a global symbol of trust. It is one of the most trusted brands in the world, and we have to. That's a massive benefit right now, but it's also a huge responsibility to protect that. When someone sees the interlocking circles, they think safety and security. So now we're in the space of an AI chatbot, and this is a space of misinformation and massive mistrust. So on the one hand, the use of the logo in this environment brings people some comfort that they can go ahead and use that thing. On the other hand, we better make sure that what we're presenting and serving up is authentic and real and bona fide. And that was a big part of the conversation we had. And then, okay, how do we use the brand in this environment? Because all of a sudden we have a chatbot. So how does the brand play a role in that CX? And so that led us to develop and extend a new system of brand gestures that have our symbol at the core, but allow you in that chatbot experience to know that the chatbot is now thinking about the answer it's going to give you. And it extends into the voice. We used to have tone of voice so that all the writers knew how to write in a style of Mastercard. Now that's actually someone having a conversation. How do you take a tone of voice, convert those into AI prompts that then turn into a voice that sounds like Mastercard through the written word in the moment? These are really fascinating evolutions for brand and how brand shows up as part of an experience. Sorry, that was a very long answer.
No, super interesting. Very complex, right?
We thought about everything from not only from the conversation that Nikki talked about, but from, I work very closely with Nikki's team. Beth, who's in the audience, is a partner of ours that we work very closely with. What does it look like, feel like, sound like? All of that was taken into consideration when that was built. And it's definitely a really great collaboration between all of our groups.
So this is not an easy question, I guess, but given the expansiveness and the complexity of the topic, but to leave time for questions, to leave everyone in the audience with like your piece of advice when others are working to innovate and manage and navigate the world of emerging tech and AI. Is there something that you kind of hold as your North Star personally in your careers?
Well, I think it takes a big chunk of bravery to step into the unknown. And what I've learned over my career about stepping into the unknown is for a few things that make it feel safer. And that is grounding in strong goals with data that really gives you the permission to play. And I think the other thing that I've learned that is really important is to get yourself fit for it, because there is one thing that is certain in that space of uncertainty, and that is that it's going to be really hard. And you're going to hit every hurdle, and you're going to be on an emotional roller coaster for the period of the project. So knowing that when you enter that, it's going to be very painful and you are going to get pushed sideways, and expect those moments also helps soften the blow when they land, because it takes a lot of resilience. And I'm laughing because I see Tracy at the back of the room, who just launched this product yesterday.
She called me up in the morning and told me she was going to throw up.
Yeah, so that would be a couple of thoughts.
I guess there's no more time for excuses. In my entire career, everyone would walk in the room and be like, I'm not the social media manager. I'm not the digital manager. No more excuses. The time is here. I told this to my kids all the time. We have AI now. You can go, to go on Google and search for something, yes, I could see where that might be an issue you can't find. With AI, with ChatGPT and others, you could find the answer to anything. You could be a developer. I was working with Tracy. When we Tracy, we love you, Tracy. There's no more time, because even though I only know a little bit about coding, I could put whatever issue I have into AI and tell me, what does this code mean? Explain it to me like a 10-year-old, and it tells me. So there's no more time for excuses. Now's the time for us. We're with the Generation T, the generation for transition. That's this generation. Forget about millennials. Forget about Alpha, Gen Alpha. We are the transition generation, and we have to be able to use the technology to help ourselves first, and then the rest of the world. That's my perspective.
Amazing. So any questions for these guys?
I'm curious. I feel like when it comes... Hi. I'm curious. When it comes to AI, I feel like a lot of... I'm with Sprinkler, and we work with a lot of like really impressive brands out there, probably many in the room. And I'm curious. A lot of the folks I'm talking to have a really big debate around, should we be building our own in-house models? Should we be leveraging the AI that's already been built by some of the partners we're working with? I know Mastercard has a ton of really impressive partnerships. And what's the intersection of that? I imagine there's probably room for a bit of both, and I'd love to hear
I was
from
going
the
to
team
say
on that.
both. I think it depends on the objectives and the goals, and what you speed to market, cost, any number of things, but we have a blend of both.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Hi,
Hey,
Shay. Agency Relations at Mastercard. I'm part of Nikki's team, so this question is not for her to remain employed. This will be for Sebastian, the champ. All right. In your intro, you mentioned that you go down to your basement at night, and your wife hates the noisy machines. So we are intrigued by that. So what the noisy machines? Tell us, how do you keep up with emerging tech? Like, what's the secret? It's going so fast. What's the trends, and how do you keep up in the?
Yeah, I've been asked this a lot lately because in the past, I used to be able to keep up with it. I knew what was going to come in the next 2 years because it was very clear in front of me. My biggest advice is to talk to people. I talk to people all over. I network all the time. So whether it's someone at OpenAI, someone at Google, all the way to a small business owner that I go get my coffee every Friday morning with. What are the issues that they're dealing with, and what technology could you solve to help that? So it goes from like agentic experiences with OpenAI, when I'm having conversations with them on that, this idea that we could have agents like come back to us in 45 minutes with everything we ever imagined to help us with something, versus to the small business owner who says, I have someone that comes in who's blind, but he doesn't know how much, the prices when we check out. I have to tell him, how can that be solved? You work for Mastercard, right? So these are the things that inspire me daily to stay on top of, and then I go search. I go search for the things that might help me in that. So that's where I would say I keep
a lifetime in the basement with your machines.
Anybody else? Perfect.
I
Lots of piggybacks.
I don't keep them away from the tech. What I tell them to do is I tell them to watch out for things that are tricky. Not for people who are scary, for people who are tricky. Because online, there's a difference between someone's not going to come at them and be mean, and then they're going to say, all right, I'll come with you. It's the tricky part. And that happens online in Roblox, and it happens offline in real life. So it's a good question, and something I have 3 kids, so that's what I talk to them about.
I actually have another question for you now that you talked about that. I have 3 kids too. My daughter's 14, and she comes to me all the time and said, I used ChatGPT for my homework. I used this for my paper. And I'm like, what do I say to that? Is that okay? That's not okay? I don't think you should be doing that. What do you think about it?
If it inspires them, yes. It should inspire them to then go and craft something. For us in the Oddo residence, it's about an inspiration tool, not a tool to do the work. That's how we use it.
Amazing. Thank you guys both so much.
Guys,
so
thank you very much.
interesting. So interesting.